NVIDIA today is the singular most scarce company in AI.
Is AI just helping humans get this done, or is it eventually replacing humans?
More than 28,000 people have now signed an online petition calling for a ban on the development of AI superintelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Right now, as you're watching this video, 5 companies control the entire future of artificial intelligence. NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Meta. Not because they built the best AI, but because 15 years ago, they made a series of calculated bets that accidentally turned them into an unbreakable monopoly. And today, I'm going to tell you their story. How 5 tech giants stumbled into becoming the most powerful cartel in history.
How they built a kingdom where every AI innovation must pay them tribute. This is a story of the true godfathers of AI. To understand their power, imagine AI as a living thing. Like any living thing, it needs certain essentials to survive. It needs a brain to think, those are the chips, controlled by NVIDIA. It needs food to grow smart, that's data, hoarded by Google and Meta. It needs a home, the cloud, owned by Microsoft and Amazon. And it needs roads to reach people, distribution, locked down by Apple.
Here's the shocking part. None of them set out to dominate AI. NVIDIA was making graphics cards for gamers. Google and Meta were selling ads. Microsoft was losing the smartphone war. And Apple, they still haven't built any AI. Yet, through a series of moves that seemed unrelated at the time, they each conquered a piece of the AI kingdom before anyone knew there was a kingdom to conquer. Together, they've built a system where they can take more than half the revenue from AI companies. That they've built a system so perfect, so interlocking, that even the government can touch them. In fact, the government needs them. Let me take you back to where it all began, before ChatGPT, before anyone was even talking about AI. Back when these 5 companies were fighting completely different wars, making moves that would accidentally hand them the keys to the future. Our story starts with the most unlikely godfather of them all, a company that was just trying to make video games look pretty.
Our first story starts in the early 2000s, and it doesn't start with AI. It starts with video games that look terrible and gamers who wanted them to look better. The first godfather is Jensen Huang, the boss of NVIDIA. His company was famous for making powerful computer chips called GPUs that made video games look amazing. But here's where it gets crazy. NVIDIA's stock has gone up to 3,700% in just 5 years. That's like turning $1,000 into $38,000. If you bought $10,000 of NVIDIA stock instead of a used car in 2019, you would have $380,000 today, enough to buy a house. To understand NVIDIA's power, you need to know one secret about how AI learns. To get smart, an AI has to do millions of simple math problems all at the same time. This is called parallel processing. Now, it just so happens that video game chips are also designed to do thousands of things at once to draw all those amazing graphics on your screen. They were accidentally the perfect tool for the job. The problem was, back then, scientists couldn't use these powerful gaming chips for their research. There was no way to speak to them. So, Jensen Huang made a huge bet. He created a special software called CUDA. CUDA was like a universal translator. For the first time, it let researchers take all that parallel power from a gaming chip and use it for their own projects. Because NVIDIA gave CUDA away for free to universities and researchers, all the smart people building AI learned to use it. All the most important AI software was built on it. By the time the AI boom happened in 2022, there was an entire army of developers who only knew how to use NVIDIA's tools. Here's what this means for you. That ChatGPT conversation you're having, it costs about 3 cents per response in computing power. Doesn't sound like much until you realize ChatGPT has 200 million weekly users. That's why ChatGPT runs in the cloud and not on your laptop, You literally need $30,000 worth of NVIDIA chips just to get started. For a company to switch to different chips, they'll have to retrain everyone and rewrite everything. That was NVIDIA's real secret weapon, an unbreakable moat built over 15 years. And get this, NVIDIA now has 80% profit margins. That's higher than luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. They're selling computer chips with the profit margins of designer handbags. Around the same time, two other future godfathers were building their empires, not on computer chips, but on information. Google, led by Sundar Pichai, and Meta, led by Mark Zuckerberg. We'll call them the intelligence agencies. Their goal wasn't to build AI, it was to sell ads. To do that, they needed to collect as much data as possible. Little did they know they were accidentally collecting the perfect training material for AI. But why does an AI need all that data? What does it actually do with your drunk texts or that embarrassing Google search at 3 a.m.? Think about how a baby learns to talk. It listens to millions of words from its parents. It doesn't know the rules of grammar, but its brain starts to recognize patterns. It learns that happy is often followed by birthday. Now, imagine a computer that could read almost the entire internet in a matter of months. Every book, every Wikipedia page, every Reddit argument about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. By seeing how humans connect words, the AI builds a giant map of our language. Here's a mind-blowing part. Google processes 8.5 billion searches per day. That's 99,000 searches every single second. Meta sees 4 billion interactions daily, every like, comment, and share. They weren't just hoarding data for ads. They were hoarding the perfect textbook for teaching an AI how to think, talk, and act like a human. Think about it. Every time you correct a typo, you're teaching AI about spelling. Every time you click, "Did you mean?" you're training it to understand mistakes. You've been working for free as an AI trainer for the last 20 years, and you didn't even know it. But where would all this data live? And where would these powerful AIs do their thinking? This brings us to the next territory, the cloud. The companies that own these digital warehouses are like landlords. The first great digital landlord was Amazon. In the mid-2000s, they needed huge servers for their shopping website, and its boss, Jeff Bezos, had a brilliant idea: rent out their extra server space to other companies.
By the mid-2000s, another empire was fading. Microsoft had missed the smartphone revolution. Their Windows Phone was so bad, it became a meme. They weren't cool anymore, especially compared to their old rival Apple. We covered the full history of that epic rivalry in another video, and we'll leave a link for you at the end.
But facing irrelevance, Microsoft's new leader, Satya Nadella, made the boldest bet of his career. In 2019, he called Sam Altman, the boss of a small nonprofit called OpenAI. Nadella offered them something insane: billions of dollars in cash and computing power, the biggest investment in Microsoft's history. But the deal came with the secret golden rule. OpenAI was only allowed to run its powerful AI on Microsoft's cloud, Azure, every single computation. This was a trap. When ChatGPT exploded in popularity, thousands of companies rushed to use its power in their own apps. And because of that golden rule, the only way to do it was to move onto Microsoft's land and pay them rent. The world saw a cool new app, but Microsoft had created a secret pipeline. Any company that wanted to use ChatGPT's power had no choice but to become a Microsoft customer. The numbers are staggering. Microsoft's cloud revenue jumped by $20 billion per year after ChatGPT launched. Their stock price doubled, adding $1.5 trillion in value. That one phone call made Microsoft the most valuable company on earth. But there was one final piece of the puzzle. The last godfather is the one that, on the surface, seems the least likely: Apple. For the last few years, the news has been filled with stories about how Apple is behind in the AI race. They don't have a flashy chatbot to show off, but this view completely misunderstands the nature of their power. The godfather of distribution, led by Tim Cook, isn't playing the same game. They're like the mafia family that owns a casino. They don't gamble, they just collect from everyone who does. The story starts back in 2007 with the iPhone. Apple made a critical decision. The only way to get software onto their phone was through their own app store. And to sell things in that store, you had to pay a toll, 30 cents of every dollar. So how does this 15-year-old plan make them an AI godfather today? Let me put it in real terms. Every time you pay $20 for ChatGPT Plus on your iPhone, Apple makes $6 without writing a single line of AI code, without buying a single NVIDIA chip, without storing a single byte of data. $6 for doing absolutely nothing except owning the road. With over 1.5 billion active iPhones, that's one for every 5 humans on Earth. This toll roll isn't optional. It's mandatory. If you want access to the richest market on Earth, you pay the godfather of distribution. It's arguably the smartest business model in the entire empire. If that sounds insane to you, you're starting to understand how these hidden empires actually work. Every month on Janice Talks, we expose another one. Subscribe and you'll never look at big tech the same way again. For 15 years, these were 4 separate stories. The arms dealer making gaming chips, the data collectors building ad empires, the landlords renting server space, and the tollkeeper controlling the phones. Then, in late 2022, ChatGPT happened, and suddenly, all the pieces snapped together into one unbreakable, interlocking empire. The system they built forces every new AI company to pay tribute to each family. It's like the entire tech industry turned into a pyramid scheme, and these 5 companies are at the top. Let's follow the money to see how brutal the system really is. Let's say a hot new AI startup makes $100. To sell their app on the iPhone, they first pay Apple its $30 toll. Now they have $70 left. To run their AI, they pay $20 in rent to Microsoft or Amazon's cloud. And here's the kicker. A big chunk of that rent money passes right through to NVIDIA for the chips. Before this startup can pay a single employee, buy a single desk, or even keep the lights on, the godfathers have taken $50. Half their revenue gone.
But here's a cruel twist. After paying all that tribute, they now have to compete against Google and Meta's AI models. Models trained on billions of conversations and searches that the startups can never access. Models that don't pay Apple's tax because they run on the web. Models backed by unlimited money. It's like paying rent to your landlord, then finding out your landlord is also your biggest competitor, and they don't have to pay rent. It's not a business, it's a rigged game.
And here's the truly insane part. The startup has no choice. They can't build their own chips. NVIDIA has a 15-year head start. They can't avoid the App Store. Apple owns the phones. They can't skip the cloud. They need somewhere to run the AI, and they can't match the data that Google and Meta have been collecting for 2 decades. Right now, these 5 companies control 90% of AI's infrastructure. The last time we saw this kind of monopoly, the government broke up Standard Oil and AT&T. But here's a twist. This time, the government needs these companies to compete with China in the AI arms race. So the godfathers aren't just untouchable, they're essential. They're too big to fail and too important to break up. The market sees it too. These 5 companies combined are worth more than the entire economy of Japan. Let that sink in. 5 companies worth more than the world's 3rd largest economy. So that's the empire in 2025. The race to create AI was over before it really began. Every innovation, every breakthrough, every new AI app you'll use in the next decade, they all pay the tax. They all need the chips. They all need the cloud. They all need the data. They all need the phones.
The godfathers aren't competing anymore. They're collecting. And unless someone finds a way to break the system, they'll be collecting from your grandchildren too. In the end, It's not about who makes the best AI, it's about who owns the infrastructure everyone else has to use. The only question left is, will anyone ever challenge the kingdom they built? Or have we already entered the age of the eternal tech empires? If you want to see more stories about the hidden empires shaping your world, we've got videos on the Microsoft-Apple rivalry and how Zupic is secretly reshaping entire industries. Links are below. This is Janice, and I'll see you in the next one.